It's on his hard copy.
Yeah, it's not all hard copies.
How does that happen?
Did it to add that?
I added it before I
Yeah.
posted it.
Yeah, the
So,
newspaper has to.
yeah.
The
Do you want me to-
newspaper
I
has
can
it?
go make sure what's outside and
Okay. We have to wait for her to check on that.
Yeah.
They don't want to do it if it's has been posted to the press
Yeah,
for number 6.
yeah. What else?
Seeing that somebody might be watching,
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that, I wonder if that was, it is the press. Yeah, Donnie's probably snickering about that. He used to be town chairman. Either still is or he just, I think he's not since last year.
Yeah.
He was town chairman of town.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, that's the way it goes some days. And it was indulgence.
I'm supposed to correctly. I don't know why you guys got the wrong one.
So if we do it,
Yes,
okay,
correct one was posted.
so I will do item 6. All right, it is 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. First order of business is the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. All right, next order of business is to approve the consent agenda. Minutes, the bills, renewals for Class A and B licenses, and 2 temporaries.
And the additional bills.
And there is an additional list of bills. There's Aurora Medical Center, Card Member Services, Great Lakes Coca-Cola, Ozaki Highway Department, and Carl's for the sewer backup totaling 47,1477 for those 4 items. 5.
One of the bills to be approved is from CTI for cannabis works. Came to conclusion of the install. Ask for it.
Is that the question about the license plates and all that stuff?
Yeah. I don't, all the initially asked for the proposal. We asked for that. Look at the steps we have to do that.
So we should, you're requesting that we pull one of the bills out?
No,
The contract.
if we didn't ask for license plate reader, then I think. we got paid.
I don't recall actually asking for that specific
No,
item.
and
I haven't heard that.
that camera could be swapped out for a different one, and we could use the existing camera on the next year project.
Yeah.
So
It's up, Huey.
So that's all right then? All righty. Motion's in order.
well, I got a correction. On
Okay.
last month's consent agenda, the scheduled transfer was a July 3rd, 2022. I think it was June 3rd. Here. The payment for project anything.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed
July
to be-
30 should be June 3.
So correction to the minutes.
Yeah.
Right. You are correct.
Move to approve the consent agenda with the correction on June 3 instead of July 3, along with additional.
Second. Okay, I have a
Who
motion.
seconded down there? I'm sorry.
I did.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Open session for citizens' questions and comments. All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Discussion on strategy for upcoming Standard and Poor's review. Justin Fisher. Welcome.
I don't know if we have one.
So I don't know if Melissa's gonna inform you of what's been going on, but a debt payment was due. A debt payment was due June 1. And it was just unfortunately missed by a couple days. Well, in the municipal bond world, when you do public offering, what the village did back in 2017 for that $4 million project, which was
Main Street.
Main Street, it was a larger project. Well, you went out for municipal bonds for that. And because you have such good financials, you know, you have good policies in place, you really did a great job for the village. You were able to receive a very good bond credit rating from Standard & Poor's. Because of the strong bond credit rating, when we went out and borrow money, we were able to get 2.85% for that borrowing for 20-year finance. So pretty unbelievable interest rate, especially here in things today. So having a strong bond credit rating is very important to a community. Most communities that borrow for larger capital projects have an outstanding bond credit rating. All my clients, they pretty much have outstanding bond rating. You also have an outstanding S&P bond credit rating, which is AA-. Now, because the payment was missed, that triggers an event that goes out to the municipal bond fund that says, something happened.
Oops.
And so we need to make an event filing on a database that all Standard & Poor's, all municipal bond holders can access. Well, they noticed that it was a news and contacted the village and said, we need to get on a call and discuss, what's going on. And so when typically you get those phone calls, that means that they're starting to take a deeper dive into the village to say, what is going on there? Why did they pay this? So with that being said, there is a rating call schedule with Melissa and Brad and so forth, some people up here, to ultimately go through probably the village's financials, make sure that you're still in line with what you received back in 2017, which was a AA- contract rating. And they may say, well, since 2017, there's been some turnover, this payment was missed, financials don't look as strong, we may downgrade the village. How does that affect you? It doesn't affect your outstanding issues that you have out there. But what it does affect is if you do go out and borrow for another capital project in the future, over the next several years, you will be paying a higher interest rate than what you would be paying if you keep your strong bond credit rating. So that's the effect. And so we have to think through this, what can we tell Standard & Poor's when we get on this bond rating call? Why, what procedures, what steps have you taken to try to keep your strong bond credit rating? And so that's where Melissa kind of said, I think probably could get there, to come here and speak to you about this, because one of the strategies we've done with communities that this has happened is to hire a paying agent. So they basically will send an invoice to Melissa saying, hey, you have a payment due on this debt. Here's your 30-day notice. Pay them, and they'll make sure that Depository Trust Corporation, which is the kind of the overseer of all municipal bond payments. You gotta remember, this is there's a couple $1 billion a week in the municipal bond. Market. So DTC oversees everything. So they've got a lot going on too on their end. And, you know, having that middle person, make sure that DTC gets the money and everything is clear for the village. Sometimes it's well worth the money, and many communities choose to have that service. There are some communities that don't want to pay that fee and have, you know, a village official make that payment to make sure that DTC gets it and they process it in time when it's due. Either way is typically fine, but, you know, especially for the smaller communities, I would say high majority of them have a paying agent because, one, we don't have a staff like, you know, Fond du Lac or you know, Peter Greenbankers or something like that, where they've got finance people that directly make sure this happens. You know, you've got you know,
Do we have the list?
wearing many hats, right? And so it's a nice smaller insurance kind of policy to make sure that those payments are made and this doesn't happen. So that's one option that you have, and that costs about $500 a year for that service. And this is nothing, not affiliated with Baird or anything. This is just a separate third party that does this for communities. And we would, you know, say if you want to go that route, hire one of these third party services, and that way we can go to SB and say, look, they've taken steps to make sure this doesn't happen because they've got this being legit on board. If you don't have a capital project in the next, you know, 10 years, you know, and you don't think that this will ever happen again. I mean, it sounds like Melissa's definitely not going to let this happen again, but still you could be down if you don't take, you know, some really proactive steps to show them.
Is that permanent through the life of the particular bond? Or can you have that for 5 years and they say, well, we want to switch back to general account?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You could always cancel it.
Mhm.
I would let that be necessarily know that you're going to cancel it in the future. But that is your option to cancel it at any time.
How many bonds will it cover?
One. So there's one outstanding, which is the 2017 public issue.
Okay.
Yeah, we have another one that we're considering issues over maybe in the next 3 or 4 years for a similar amount.
And that's where, you know, if $500 a year, if you were to get down, you know, and you're paying a higher interest rate, I mean, on a similar amount, that could be $5,000 to $10,000 a year in additional interest because of the worst bond.
Yeah.
So it's up to you. If that's, you know, there's another approach you could say. You may want to have another person at the village also making sure that these payments are made. You know, in addition to Melissa, there could be another person that also has done their tasks to make sure that payments are made. So we can go to them and say, not only do we have one layer, we have 2 layers. You know, that may do it, but again, it's their decision. We're just trying to make sure that you don't ultimately get down to these kind of the best options to show them.
So even having that third party, it's still not really a guarantee on the decision.
I
Just,
would-
increases the likelihood.
I would say it just increases the likelihood. I can't guarantee anything what they're going to do. But in the past, when we added a paying agent and the financials are still in good shape, they are, they have not, our communities have not. Because of measure proactive strategies. They appreciate.
So the $500 is basically an insurance to that end.
So is there no ACH options or anything like that? Like, for example, I mean, can't you go through the bank and be like, I want a check sent out for this much at this date every year, and they automatically do it?
That would come with a fee also.
Yeah,
Not necessarily.
But so this would be sending it to the depository trust corporation,
What does
take-
that mean?
which
They only take the money through a wire transfer.
Yeah,
they're like a secret accounts, you could say. So they receive the money and then they disperse it to all the bondholders that bought their bonds. So that could be insurance companies that watch your bonds, banks, all sorts of different investors out there. That buy your bonds.
I find that it's somewhat unusual for a village of 2,200 people to have a AA minus is pretty damn good for a village our size. And would be easier lost than like Saco or someplace like that. We have everything still in place. We have our minimum general fund, fund balance, and as we ordained that we would do that. We went through the whole list and we did all of those things to make sure that we can make the bond purchasers comfortable with their investment. All that is still in place and there's nothing disturbed. It was actually just an oops. And hopefully the deciding powers will understand that, well, this was just an oops and maybe not punish us by lowering our bond rating. How long usually does that go until that's reassessed and decided whether to bring it back up?
Yeah, especially for a smaller community, it can be definitely at least 3 years, likely more than 5 years before you can see them reconsider.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a nice trend that all payments have been made and you continue to fund balance.
Yeah,
and everything like that.
So, I mean, the way I look at it, and this, I guess, is just me as being one board member. You think about $500 a year to possibly save us tens of thousands of dollars a year if we decide that we're going to actually borrow on another capital project like that. If you think about the term of it, right? I mean, 10 years, $5,000. If it's kind of a no-brainer to me. I think we can afford $500 and have that set of checks and balances. That's my own personal feeling, especially since something like this could happen again. I mean, we could be in, God forbid, the same position 2 or 3 years from now, and something happens, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, great, we did it again. Now we're costing ourselves even more money. It's $500. Look at what we've spent things on, money on in our village. $500. I think we can afford that to have a little sense of security.
This third party person is not going to take all of our debt things, just the
Just
one.
the bond payment, right? Right. It's like the ADP of bond payments,
The only public offering issue that you have outstanding.
right?
General, the state trust fund.
Because we'll likely be going out for another bond with the water treatment plant sometime in the foreseeable future.
Well, I think it's something to consider. I guess we'll go from there. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you say?
No.
Yeah, but it's good.
We would have to decide before the July 27th audit, saying though, correct?
I would say that you would want some kind of action to tell them.
And if
the
we,
board.
Yeah, well, we have
And we decide
already
to
blah,
do-
blah, blah. Right,
we need a resolution, correct?
Yes, so a resolution would be coming into July meeting,
If they decide.
and that's.
put that on the list for the next agenda. Thank you very much for the information.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Alrighty, now we have number 6, delay a requirement to install sidewalk at 483 North Milwaukee Street. I think Roger, you should introduce this.
Yeah, so. This back to those, homeless for the county of Milwaukee. if you recall, plan of action was to have Hillcrest sidewalk. It's not a question of who was there's no sidewalk. Typically, I'm like, towards the. That sidewalks. So, this point in time. Sidewalk.
Okay, discussion?
Your other lot, you want to explain about your other lot too? Sure.
So we're purchasing a lot that's south of us as well. So that's the new subdivision. We will have a vacant lot on the last and that house. So it can make sense. So we can put in a strip of sidewalk, the width of the house. As long as the lot next to us. Even if there was sidewalk in the existing subdivision. It's going to be a island of sidewalk. Prepare the property for future sidewalk. Whatever that means. Would it be a problem to install it? I mean, it's likely the course of action that would special assessment.
I mean, and I would just say, if we decide to go this route, I mean, everybody that's bought on that side of the road, we've been discussing this for years, should have an idea that this is coming at some point. So it would be the same thing as when we do extend the sidewalk. I mean, I've got to pay for mine when it goes in too, you know, I mean, I know that. And I think that should be, you know, recognized and.
Yeah, this is, as long as it's documented and
Right.
provided for when the time comes, whether it's attached to a special assessment, attached to somehow, some provision. I think it totally makes sense.
Again, this is the future development.
Yeah, this is the section that is paved yet also. Correct. Make a whole lot of sense to put that in without the road being extended.
Yeah.
It's kind of work for us. Sidewalk.
It's getting there, right?
There's some gravel.
Saw that, couple pieces.
The west side of the road will be decent, but the east side, it's gonna be mega work.
So it's a pleasure of the board.
I think it makes sense to. The way it is, so. We don't have any action section, so we're gonna take action on it.
As long as it's on the agenda, you can take action.
I was just making sure it wasn't scheduled for later.
Oh, yeah, no, right here.
We could just special assess it when the sidewalks go in.
Also, at the Public Works meeting, we talked about Trio Engineering doing the engineering design for the sidewalks south of its property, going down to about 4 feet. And so we don't have that done either. But this would take care of. The engineering work is done. So all I would have to do is put the sidewalk in at some time in the future.
In addition, this is a dead end street, even when it does get paved, so sidewalks, I think necessity for this particular moment already, right?
Yeah, you walk all the way up to the hill and back.
All the elevation, right?
Yeah.
Sidewalk.
Right.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to delay the requirement to install the sidewalk at 43 North Milwaukee Street. Until it's
And
the lot
south.
in the lot south of it. Until more traffic is done.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Who's about the sidewalk?
Yep. We motion on.
Motion is to delay the install of the sidewalk on Mr. Bob's property as well as the lot south. of which is
Thank you, guys.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Report of operations of the village. I have nothing of note to report. Village Marshal reported in your packet. Are there any questions on that? We don't have a report from Fire Chief. So I'll move to Director of Public Works report.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
What's in my report? Operating last night, really top. What's damage on the village? Used to there, there's one fairly large tree branch down here. This whole parking lot. So on the ground, I would say it's more frozen washed.
We're lucky.
Where's the large tree?
Right behind my house.
There's also one, the house north of mine.
Where it's soft nipples back there?
A big pine tree came down.
Oh, okay. Is that soft nipples?
Just off the deck. If I had my, yeah, I took a picture of it. I was gonna bring it, show it to Rod. He's aware of it. It's
Right.
not in any danger or anything like that, whatever. You know, they can go and cut it up pretty easily right from the parking lot.
All right,
The other thing that's up there for discussion, Wisconsin Wastewater Operators Association conference is coming in October. That's really all the information I have. It's really hard, but I know with others, it's like book up fast. So I guess I'm just looking for approval to attend the conference. Get what's up with the mistakes, it should be awesome.
Make that motion.
we have a motion to approve the attendance. Village vehicle,
Yes.
okay. And hotel. What, do you want to add meals and hotel? or-
This again.
Where you eat.
God,
I mean, really right now.
I thought this
I
was
just
just
wanna be able to
preliminary.
make a
right?
hotel reservation.
Okay, all right. We'll, when you bring this back up in September, we'll play with that. All right, motion has been made
Be prepared, Roger.
and seconded.
I believe Rick seconded it, right?
Yes.
Rick seconded, okay, motion been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else, Roger? Any questions of Roger? Wastewater treatment plant report is in your packet. There are no questions on that. We will move to report from clerk treasurer.
I too have a training I would like to attend in addition. I kind of watch, I get training notices all the time. I've been trying to feel out which ones I think are the best bang for the buck. This one I think is good. It's from the Wisconsin Municipal Clerks Association. It's in the Dells, August 24th through the 26th. So I too would need a hotel. The conference fee itself is $170. I think they said hotel was $90 a night, if I remember correctly. I did look at my conference budget and I do have money in there.
I'll make a motion to have Melissa attend the conference with expenses and hotel.
I don't know that we can act on that. We're not.
I thought you said on the list there, we can approve it.
Oh, this is just-
Correct.
It's just a report on
Information.
operations.
For what?
This is just a report on operations. I mean,
I actually didn't list it on the agenda, so, because I found it today.
do it next week. Or next time, or
I can put it on the, what's my,
Why 7?
July 22nd is when fees go up. So July 7th, yeah, we can
Okay.
do that. That's the other thing. I will not be at the July 7th village board meeting. I have a family obligation that I absolutely cannot change. So. Okay.
So can we prevail on John to take concise notes for the,
I'll do the best I can.
you always do. You always do.
yours are always very thorough. I like them.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Well, he works Fridays, you know. All right. Okay,
That's
that
not on the
was,
agenda. Wait till we do it.
Make a note to put that on the agenda next time.
yeah.
Probably put it in the ordinances.
I think so.
Okay, any other questions for the clerk? Okay, we'll move to county supervisor's report.
I got nothing.
All righty, then we'll go to public safety. Trustee Pap,
Happy.
Pappy.
Yeah, it was good. We had a great meeting and Mr. Abelkin was there and all the board members. What? It was right?
I told you how to
Applicant.
say it.
Well, anyways, it was a really good informational meeting. Brian had all his ducks in a row, and so did Melissa for him with some numbers and things like this. I didn't even really go too much, but the biggest concern was just sustainability. That was the only question really, but everybody's for it. Everybody agreed that they're not gonna let it try, we're not gonna let it fail. So it was approved that unanimously and it's really about it. So that went, I'm sure, right to the county. Yesterday or today.
We'll have to sign it yet. I had to get together with Brian and sign up.
Yeah, that would be important.
Okay, anything else on that?
No, sir.
All righty. We will move on to art board, John Long.
We met.
We
last
talked, we
week.
left.
We had 2 items on the agenda. The first was a fence for Andrew Base Construction. That's the northwest corner of South Milwaukee Street and Meadowlark. He wants to put he's already dug out the ground, put a storage for vehicles and materials, and he'll fence it in. Real nice fence. So we approved that. And the other was at Jimmy B's last fall, we approved them putting up a plastic shed to store their snow blower and lawnmower and gasoline but you can't have a shed on a side yard, but their backyard just wouldn't work. So we said, you can fence it in and do that in the spring. So they came with a request to fence it in. Got complicated because their utilities are on the side of the building. It has to be so far away from the building, and they finally said, forget it, we're not gonna do it. So they're just not gonna, they're gonna take away the shed, or they took away the shed, and the dumpster still may have to be fenced in, but there's a medical condition with Jimmy B right now, so we'll follow up with it. But we had the Roger Keeson, the commercial building inspector involved, and it's Kunzman from the fire department. If you put a shed in a residential facility, it has to be 10 feet from a house unless there's a firewall on one of the two structures. And that's a state ordinance. I couldn't find anything in the state ordinance about a commercial property. However, the side of the building is metal, but that's where all the utilities are located. So they said if you're gonna use that shed there, you still have to be over 10 feet away from the side of the building. They still want to do that. So right now, they're just not doing it. That's all I have. Tried working with them.
So you're gonna follow up on that.
Yeah,
Okay. Any questions of John? All right, report from Parks and Recreation Committee.
Parks Committee met yesterday. Really just went through a lot of the things that we're doing, down at the Fund Before the Fourth, to see if there's anything else that needed to be added. At this point, we're doing pretty well on the budget. We got a couple of things to iron out next week as far as placement, things like that, but we're pretty much ready to go, which is awesome. We talked a little bit about the summer parks program. So we have two young gentlemen. Is that a good way to describe them? That'll be leading it, and we currently have 23 people registered. So
I like to
Okay, so-
congratulate Dan. He's really pulling this together. He's very organized.
I'm only as good as my help around me, but I appreciate that. Thank you. That's everything.
All right, any questions? All right, report from Public Works. We just, 10 minutes before the board meeting, completed an agenda of 15 items in an hour and a half. There are some that require action on at this meeting. I will put concise, complete minutes that will be in the packet for the next meeting to review. And maybe some other thing, action items from this meeting, but
There's only one action item on this one from the agenda.
what?
There's only one action item from Public Works on this agenda.
Great. So we will take care of those when we get to the action items. We decided to we stick to the ordinance on the sewer backup policy and not add anything to it or a separate policy. We had updated the DNR compost pile that our temperature didn't meet 140 degrees at all times, and we need to take temperature more often and a few other things. So that's being addressed by Public Works. Arbor Day is to be announced. And that's pretty much all. Roger is going to update the building construction permits and present that at a future date. Any questions on that? If not, we'll go to the action items.
There's also the plan commission meeting, and Dominguez didn't get in here.
Yeah, I forgot about that meeting.
I missed it because I just missed it on my calendar, but the items which were passed were that gravel parking lot on Howard Drive I talked about. Kendall Thistle, the concrete pad by his house. And Hillcrest didn't show up with a,
Anything?
And Roger had that in his report.
EPC also had a meeting on Monday, but the packet will probably be in the next meeting we have.
All right, I'll move on. First action item, we have a motion to adopt resolution 22C. Congratulating Joe Bertram for her years of service. Paragraph 3 is or paragraph
True.
4, yeah, 3 is the one that we had problems with. I did a generic statement for that, and that pretty much explains how she actually works for the village, so we're in order to decide whether or not we want to approve this or not.
I'll move to approve resolution 2022.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Motion to approve ordinance 2022-3. Big products.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-3.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. There is an addition of a few words which clarified the issue in paragraph F.
That you've been smoking in the parking lot.
Yeah, so I can't get arrested.
As long as you're not under 18, we're good.
I'm over 18 there. A few times.
You look blew away last night, though.
Yeah. Okay, I have a motion I got a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a
I have a
second.
motion and a second. If there are no questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to approve a change order for Miller Excavating. This is recommended by the Planning Public Works Committee for the board to approve this. In the amount of 23.8, making the total project cost 74,208.
Roger,
Just for, yeah.
I missed this part of this meeting. I know it was the first thing we talked about, but what's the reasoning behind it, or why are we?
We did the job with 800 feet of curb. What they take care of the water source already. It's all different crack curb and stuff, we're gonna see that 800. We just started looking at the style of the existing curb right now is like a 4-inch curb. Sort of round.
Yep.
What you got down towards the end. They need to be much better project. Everything just goes with the curb.
Do it right.
And you're gonna have a whole row of, at least, curb behind. Just doesn't make sense.
So the new curb's gonna sit up higher, it's not gonna be that vertical.
Yeah, Jim has been.
I like that.
But the whole curve will be sitting on the same consistent foundation, so.
It might look goofy too, patch it like that. You can match the existing.
Well, we'll match, just, I have to watch. Because we created this from God. So, but essentially match the style. And it's down towards the end of the mark. So sort of it'll appear like most of it.
The curve that exists on the part of the road that goes downhill is going to remain.
Yes.
That you're not replacing, just up to
So
that.
that's actually reduced this cost. When I asked them to say 2,400 feet of curve, it says that we're gonna do super far.
Mhm. So it should end up to be less than $2,300 as far as an increase. Well, it's a pleasure of the board.
This is going up an additional valuation of the higher risk for.
Yes, That's, I mean, that's where we're, because like existing sidewalk and stuff are not replacing any of that. So I can't put the curb higher than the side. Yeah, or, you know, you have a shorter face.
Yeah, the pan of the curve has to,
But what I'm getting here is I get that they could slip on page, so you get a price for the. It's quite a bit of difference, but it's because there's so much extra.
Curb right now, you can kind of drive up, just ramp, it's just kind of ramp.
yeah, the pan of the curb has to be even between new and old. That means that the back of the curb would be low and then go up and low and go up. And you couldn't match the sidewalk, it just
This is on both sides or just the one?
Also,
both sides. The brand new street is expected to last 20 years or so without touching it. And we would be touching it if we would leave these old sections in there.
When that curb was built originally, your foundation height is set above that curb. So what does that do if you raise that? Correct?
we should be doing that. Walking. Those houses, those foundations are set really nicely.
I don't, I just like the curb you got now. Me personally, I like what's currently there. It's easier for parking on the street. Seems like the water
Well,
flows
you
better.
can, I mean, we can still go to that style, but it's still say.
So is that the style we're going to then? Or we're gonna go to the one that you're saying you want to match the one that goes downhill? The one that goes downhill kind of sits up.
You don't change your profile or the genre, you stick with that style or as close to as we can get.
Well,
I
right.
don't know whether they have the same. Still more curve, but. At least some of those old sections of curve bending.
So they're gonna form all this, they're not gonna use the machine.
No, they'll use machine.
No, They would use the machine for all of it versus now they have.
I guess I would just prefer to see that, 'cause that's what people have been used to, but it doesn't matter. It's a curb.
I'm just thinking, I don't want to look hodgepodge, right? Like, do it all, but do it one way or another, you know? So if that's the intent, then I'd make a motion to approve the change order. The amount of 23,800 to install full curb.
So with what style? You want? With what style curb?
Depends on what forms they have.
Keep it as close as possible to existing.
Okay.
Yeah, we can blend it when we get to the other curve.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, any questions on that?
Yes, while we're speaking about this, what is going on? I don't know, someone can call point of order if they'd like, that's fine. But what is going on with, we didn't really talk about public works and it slipped my mind, so I apologize for dragging us out, but what's going on with the sewer situation up there?
I don't want to have a real good answer to that. All I can say, but I found that out on this. That needs to consider that. So, what they told me, mid this week, should be here next week. No, I didn't call them today after the rain. I'm really working right now. They got the same rainstorm that we got.
No, it's just.
Basically, true, although this week just say, essentially off and off.
Right.
This job should be done year and we push it forward.
Yeah. I know a lot of people weren't happy when they came last year to the main. I mean, they were out there till midnight, that one night or whatever it was. I mean, you remember that? They had the lights going. I mean, people were ticked. But, so yeah, I know we pushed it for them and I just want to make sure that, like I said, I know we're not gonna hit that
This is a
deadline,
different
but,
contract.
okay, so this is a totally different contractor, okay. I just want to make sure we're gonna hit our deadlines that we are as close to them as we possibly can. So what I don't want to have a situation happen is this gets drug out so long, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, we're not gonna get it in before winter. Now you're stuck with
Well,
what we've got.
I mean, I think everyone's good with that, what the concrete guy comes in after sewer guy, and the paving guy comes in after concrete guy, and they're all set in their schedule to come and all, they'll be looking for gaps in their schedule.
Right.
Finishes.
Which I think someone has to be able to respond. I mean, that's the thing. You're right. We pushed this off, thinking we were gonna be the first ones this year. So I think that's,
Yeah, I don't understand, not an answer why. No answer.
All right, I'll call a question of the motion. All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carried. Motion to review and approve the CMAR.
Essentially what the CMAR is.
A report card.
Wastewater activities for last year. DNR requires that. We go through the procedure, we sort all things except for one B and then fifth floor, which had to do related to BOD concentrations in the fifth floor exceeded our design capacity 3 different times. So essentially, look at formula see that since May, we have not exceeded. If there points. At that same time, we switched labs. I don't think it's a coincidence. DOD numbers are on the line. Story. The lab we have to usually, I don't know if you remember, we used to use power pollution, and they sold the suburban and back one. We had some issues with the water system. We changed, essentially changed our activities.
That didn't affect our grade though.
You don't accept any dump sewage. Like, how does that work down at the Wild Run Park down there? Those sharp, they dump, where do they dump?
For the campers,
Yeah,
some of them come
Yeah,
out.
that's what we did.
okay. I just didn't know because it said that we didn't have any dumping.
So, yeah, so like I was or something, so we used to get a fair amount of that and 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we changed our fees for that. Because the residents are paying a certain amount per gallon usage. Because something's always coming up, 5,000-6,000 gallon trucks. And what you pay for fee was half of them, which resident paid 6,000 gallons. Don't put it. So we changed the fees and they were all just. I'm happy with that. That's
Did the PSC require us to make that change? Did the PSC require us to make that change?
No, we did, we just did that.
We did that on our own.
The PSC doesn't get into our sewer rates.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were talking about it.
Well, it looks like we're doing a pretty good job. Looks like everything's coming out. 3.92 is pretty darn good. Better than the Cs that get degrees. So I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2022D reviewing compliance maintenance annual report.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Do we have any correspondence? Have none. We have items for future consideration.
Got just one thing. Couple of updates on the website thing. So we're moving along. Had 2 meetings. I don't know if it's this week or the last week. I can't remember, but we started working with the design and how we wanted the website to look that way. And then also with some of the color schemes and what it's all gonna look like. We had a little bit of homework to do, which I think that we completed. The only thing I still need is the logo, the old logo. We gotta send to him.
Oh.
So I don't know if we can find that and send it to him, but that'd be great. And then as part of that, the last couple of days, I've been working with a graphic designer up in Plymouth. It's called Midstar Printing. And they sent us a quote. I asked them for a quote for doing rebranding and creation of logos and things like that. And they sent that back to me today, and their anticipated estimated cost, it's about 20 hours of work. And it was at around $1,700. So that's kind of about where we would be. I would anticipate that would come out of the EDC budget. But again, I don't know. So that's something that we can discuss at a future time. But the website developer stressed the importance of making sure that when we do this once, and we don't try to go back and forth, because we're designing it to be the new Fredonia and not the old one and then going to the new one and then back, or however we want to do it. So these people at Midstar, they sounded really eager to help us. Of course they did. We're paying them. But they also said that they would be willing to speak with the website developer and work hand in hand with them to make sure that work isn't duplicated, which I thought was pretty cool. So
Just kind of bring some grand scheme of things. Very reasonable, as our recommending.
yeah, and they're thinking $85 an hour. They also had some other things like social media set up and then photography too, but I don't necessarily know that we need that at this time.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? In order to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Jan, do you want that?
Yeah,
on
hopefully none of
the-
us can-
This would be good.
Yeah, I'm thinking that.
Property tax thing might get a little hairy.
Yeah,
but
why don't we? I'll see if we
I
can
like
get
that.
the
I like that. I like the idea of it. I mean, I like the overall.
We don't want to
That's
delay
like the
that,
same for
We'll likely
everybody.
need to do that.
so they have time to develop it, to get it on their website, as our website develops.
I might just,
It needs to
Tell
have
me
a
what,
presence
but
there.
Official approval.
right,
I agree.
So I look forward to the